Okay, we're on the air.
Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome you to the regular meeting of the Milwaukee Planning Commission. Agendas and additional copies of staff reports are available on the city website at www.milwaukeeoregon.gov. You may locate them by navigating to the community calendar where tonight's meeting page is posted. If you have not reviewed the agenda, please do so. It contains important information about the process. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the February 22nd, 2022 meeting. Does anybody have any corrections to make? I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the February 22nd, 2022, that's a lot of twos, to be accepted as written.
Second that motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Are there any informational items from staff?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that we're still in the hearings process for the comp plan implementation code work for housing, parking, and trees. And we're actually having a special meeting with the City Council on March 29th. That's outside of the regular council meetings because we needed to be able to get in an extra meeting. So that meeting will start at 5 o'clock, and I think that's the 6th hearing, and I'm imagining we'll have a 7th, but I just wanted everybody to know that's where we were.
Could you remind the public when that due date, isn't there a due date for that work required because it's House Bill 21 or something?
Yes, we have to have it adopted by the end of May so that it's within the 30 days because it has to actually be effective at the end of June according to state statute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is an opportunity to comment on items not on tonight's agenda for the public. Does anyone wish to comment on an item that is not on tonight's agenda? And Brett, please let me know if any audience members raise their hands in Zoom. For any audience members who have called in.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. I missed a part of the script. If you're participating virtually, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom to indicate that you wish to make a comment. And for any audience members who have called into the Zoom meeting by phone, please dial *9 to indicate that you wish to make a comment.
Yeah, I was going to say the only hand I see raised is from one of the applicants for the first hearing item, and I'll just say that we'll promote you in as panelists when we get to that point in the hearing. And I guess if there's another issue, maybe you could try the Q&A function and send a question.
We're seeing no other hands raised, Chair.
Thank you. So at this point of the agenda, the Planning Commission will act as the Community Involvement Advisory Committee. I now ask staff to provide any updates.
I do not have any updates at this time.
Thank you. Do CIAC members have any items to report?
I do have one as almost as a community announcement, if I could.
Please, Commissioner Heeman.
So I want to remind our fellow NDAs that it is required now by state law that you can offer virtual. You have to offer virtual when you're doing an in-person public meeting. The state law is very vague, so it can be as simple as having your telephone sitting on a desk and just having people listen. But you do have to provide some sort of feedback loop. It can be that simple as a phone being sitting there or as complicated as we have inside this room. The city of Milwaukee has graciously offered the NDAs payment of their Zoom accounts, so those can still be used. And as your NDAs kind of navigate through what their future is going to look like, whether or not they're going to stay on Zoom or if they're going to go to a public place and have an open meeting, just as a reminder, you can contact Jason Watts for more information if you want.
Thank you, Commissioner Hemer. Any other items from CIAC members? Okay, thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak with the Planning Commission in their role as the CIAC? And again, if so, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom to indicate that you wish to make a comment. And if you're connected by phone, please dial *9 if you to indicate that you wish to make a comment. Brett? Are there any hands raised?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Brett, are there?
Oh, sorry, no, I'm not seeing any hands raised, no.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on.
So we'll start our public hearings now. The public hearing on the proposed setback reduction at 2807 Southeast Sherrett Street is called to order. The purpose of this hearing is to consider application number VR-2022-001. The purpose of the application is to request approval for the variance application to reduce side and rear yard setbacks at 2807 Southeast Sherrett Street. The applicant has the burden of proving that the application is consistent with the City of Milwaukee's zoning and subdivision ordinance, comprehensive plan, any applicable municipal code provisions, and that the proposal conforms with all the city's applicable criteria. I now ask staff to cite the zoning ordinance section or sections where the criteria can be found.
All right, the applicable criteria are in Milwaukee Municipal Code, Chapter 12.16, Access Management, Section 19.301, Low Density Residential Zones, including R5, Section 19.607, Off-Street Parking Standards for Residential Areas, Chapter 19.700, Public Facility Improvements, Section 19.911, Variances, and Section 19.1006, Type 3 Review.
Thank you. All testimony and evidence must be directed towards the applicable substantive criteria. Failure to address a criteria or raise an issue with sufficient detail to allow the Planning Commission an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue precludes appeal to the City Council based on that issue. Failure to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient detail to allow a response precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Any party with standing may appeal the decision of the Planning Commission to the City Council. Persons with standing are those who submit written comments or testify in person or via Zoom. If you are here to testify, please remember to confine your remarks to the application and the relevant criteria and to avoid repetition and not relevant information. If additional documents or evidence are provided by any party, the Commission may, if requested, allow a continuance or leave the record open to allow the parties a reasonable opportunity to respond. Any such continuance or extension shall be subject to the limitations of the 120-day rule unless the continuance or extension is requested or agreed to by the applicant. Does any member of the Planning Commission wish to abstain from this hearing? Hearing none. Does any member of the Planning Commission wish to declare an actual or potential conflict of interest? Does any member of the Planning Commission wish to report on any ex parte contacts? Commissioner Ert? And please unmute.
Sorry, it happens. I'm just going to read my spiel. In my position as an admin for an online community with 10,000 neighbors, I frequently read and am tagged in social media posts and comments related to the City of Milwaukee. Some communication may relate to issues being addressed at the Planning Commission. I do not knowingly interact or engage with current issues being addressed at the Planning Commission. Out of approximately 60,000 comments and posts per month, I do not specifically recall any communications related to the subject matter of tonight's hearing, but make this general declaration for the record.
Thank you, Commissioner Ert. Any other Planning Commissioners wish to declare any ex parte contacts? Does anyone have any rebuttal to the ex parte contacts declared by Commissioner Ert? I guess, Brett, would you let me know if anyone raises their hand in Zoom?
Sure. No one has raised their hand.
Okay. Will any commissioner who has visited the site prior to this hearing please raise their hand? Excellent. Thank you all. Did any of those commissioners who visited the site speak to anyone at the site or note anything different from what is indicated in the staff report for this application? Hearing none. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the participation of any member of the Planning Commission? And again, Brett, please let me know if any hands are raised in Zoom.
No hands raised virtually or in the room.
Excellent. Thank you. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission to hear this matter?
Again, none.
Again, thank you, Brett. So let's proceed to the staff report presentation. Brett?
All right, good evening. Commissioners virtually and in the room, members of the public, I'm Brett Kelver. I'm a senior planner with the City of Milwaukee, and I'll be walking you through the first of these two hearings for tonight. This one is for file number VR-2022-001, related to setback request for the property at 2807 Southeast Sherrett Street. So the subject property is already developed with an existing single unit house. It is an irregularly shaped lot, given its location. And the essential driver of this application is the intent of the owners and applicants to construct an addition to the west side of the house. And that's going to involve demolishing an existing garage. Let's see if I can picture this here. So here is the existing detached garage. If my cursor tracking.
Yes.
And the hard black line is the outline of the existing house, and you can see then the proposed addition extends over to the west, involving the removal of the detached garage, which is very close right now to the rear property line and fairly close to the street side line. So this property is zoned for moderate density residential use. It's zoned R5. It happens to be very close to the Springwater Trail. That's what abuts it to the north. And on its west side is public right-of-way in 28th Avenue that essentially serves as primarily a bicycle and pedestrian connection to the Springwater Trail. And the removing the garage will involve closing one of two vehicle driveways that remain on 28th Avenue.
One of them is here where the existing garage is, and then the other one is covered up by the label of 28th Avenue, a driveway serving this lot here. I think the city's eventual plan for this area is to have no vehicle access on 28th Avenue so that it can be primarily a bicycle pedestrian access with no potential conflicts with vehicles and bikes and peds. So the images on the right-hand side, the top one shows an elevation of the existing situation. So you can see the existing house and then the detached garage. You can see a little bit of grade change on the site. The proposal would add on to that western side of the house. That's the image kind of on the bottom right, and essentially replace the detached garage, which what I've been describing in the staff report as like a daylight basement. That's how it will function as it's connected to the house. And you can see in the bottom right-hand image that dashed line is representing the vertical dash line here is representing kind of where the existing side of the house is. The image to the left is just showing a view of the detached garage that would be removed, and you can see the fairly informal driveway or vehicle access that attaches to it right there. As proposed, I just wanted to note that, again, on this diagram, the the tallest portion of the new house addition would actually meet still the 15-foot street side setback. That's shown by this line here. And again, I've got the graphic on the left-hand side. It is the extension of this daylight basement that would extend into the street side setback of 15 feet going down to 5, as well as the rear yard. I'm showing you the approval criteria for this type of variance, and it involves an assessment of what are some of the impacts and the benefits of the requested variances. In addition, the main case that the applicants have to make is that what they're proposing is reasonable, it's appropriate, and that it meets at least one of those criteria, that it provides some public benefit, or that it's responding somehow to the site conditions in a creative way, or is otherwise avoiding impacts to other properties. And the assessment of staff in this case was that that it is a reasonable and appropriate request to go back an image or two to the larger site plan. Just wanted to note, again, the existing detached garage is very close to the rear property line and about 4 feet from the street side line. Removing it and replacing it with the proposed addition does provide a little bit more separation between the house and the public right-of-way. So there are no new impacts or to access along the 28th Avenue connector to the Springwater Trail. And a primary benefit is the removal of the potential vehicle conflict. By removing that detached garage and having the applicants relocate a driveway over here to the Sherrett Street frontage, that will do a lot to cut down on the number of potential impacts that there might be between vehicles trying to access that driveway and the detached garage, and bikes and peds trying to access the trail. So overall, our assessment was that it's a perfectly reasonable request. There are not even really any impacts that warrant mitigation, and so our recommendation was for approval of both of the variances. And just a final shot here showing two views of the 28th Avenue connector. The one on the left is kind of looking towards the Springwater Trail, and you can see the garage to be removed. And the one on the right is kind of looking back from the trail towards the neighborhood there. So there's no new encroachment to the path access and no impacts that needed mitigation. So with that, I'll ask if there are any questions from commissioners.
No questions for me.
Does anyone have their hand raised? I can't really see.
Commissioner Casabrati.
Let me see if I can. Oh, there we go. I see you now. Commissioner Casabrati.
Thank you. Real quick, so it's not moving any closer to the trail. You said if anything, it's going to provide more distance from the trail?
Yeah, by a foot.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Have we received any correspondence on this matter other than the items included in the meeting packet?
Yeah, we did get one letter from Portland's Bureau of Development Services, their Land Use Services Division, that came in after the packet was posted, and that was forwarded on to you. They raised some question about potential impacts of having the building closer to the trail corridor. No other comments besides that.
Okay. Would the applicant or their representative like to comment? And if so, sorry, I'll let them answer first.
Yeah, let me promote some members of the applicant team here into the panelist portion. Let's give that a second here. So Ann and Debbie, you all are in. It looks like you're both muted right now, but go ahead if you want to make a presentation. Unmute yourselves and just maybe state your names and address for the record.
Just city of residence would be fine.
There you go.
Name and city of residence.
Yeah.
Mike Mendez. So I've been a resident here for approximately 23 years. Love the neighborhood. Have raised my 14-year-old here, now a high school student. We use the trail often, know a lot of the neighbors, meet a lot of new people every day. Combining our lives together, our families, now we need to upgrade our home and more space. So it was time to do what we wanted to do, and we looked throughout Southeast Portland and decided this is where we wanted to stay. So this is where we're at, and that's what we want to do. Hopefully you guys can understand.
Thank you. Are there any clarifying questions from the commission for the applicant? I can't quite see everybody, so Greg, feel free to holler if...
There are no questions at this moment.
Yeah,
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you very much for being here, and we'll go ahead and move on with the hearing. Do we have anyone who wishes to testify on the application from the public?
I am seeing one hand raised in the chat. Let me just poll the audience as well. Is anyone here to make a comment about the Sherrett Street variance application? No? Okay, I'm going to promote Ariel in.
So do we have one person with a hand raised in Zoom and no one in the audience?
That's correct. Yeah, I just promoted Ariel Harrison. Hi, go ahead. You're muted right now.
Hey everyone, can you hear
Please
us?
state your name and city of residence. Please state your name and city of residence for the record, and go ahead and start your comments.
My name is Jeremy Taves.
I'm Ariel Harris, and we live in Milwaukee, Oregon, neighbors to Mike and Ann.
And we've been here about 6 years or so. And we just wanted to comment on a couple of items. One, we also use the trail every day. I walk to the Max station and take the TriMet in downtown, and just kind of really excited to hear the city's plans to kind of make that access even less car friendly and more bike friendly. That sounds really great, and kind of this was our first experience really seeing these drawings, and it seems to kind of be in alignment with that intent, so that's really exciting. Just kind of speaking a little bit to kind of our experience with this community and this property, and Mike and his family as well. Being next to the Springwater corridor, there's oftentimes kind of some unsavory characters, kind of, and we feel like Mike's done a really great job of keeping the community aware of things, kind of as different things happen on that. He's usually the person that interfaces with the police department if there's anything that's happening kind of right on that corner. And it's just been really kind of a welcoming and friendly community having Mike there. He's done a lot to reach out, keep everyone informed. We've had our car broken into one time, and he's been able to kind of talk through that with us and kind of let us know kind of different people to reach out to type of stuff. He's invited our kids to jump on his trampoline and just been like a really great neighbor. We've enjoyed the community a lot, and we're hopeful that you all approve this request. Our kids are really excited to see all the trucks and watch the construction take place. And yeah, we are excited about the direction that this neighborhood's going, your plans for this connection to the corridor, and seeing it through. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any clarifying questions from the commission? Go ahead and wave, Greg, if you have any. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public that wish to testify on this application?
Oh, yes. Let me promote one more in.
I'm sorry, Brett, was that
That's a yes. One more.
an affirmative?
Yeah. Showing
Okay.
up as Liz Epp.
Hi.
Well, Well, please state your name and city of residence for the record, and go ahead and start your comments.
Hi, I'm Liz Epp, Milwaukee, Oregon. I'm also a neighbor to Mike and Ann, and I just very quickly want to say that I support the project. I use the trail. It's a great neighborhood, and I'm happy to see it happening.
Thank you. Commissioners, any clarifying questions for Liz? Okay, great. Thank you for your comments. And then, Brett, anybody else for this one?
No, not seeing any hands.
Okay. Does the applicant have any rebuttal for the comments, or any other comments before we close the record?
I guess I could just chime in for a minute. I think everybody's doing such a great job. Thank you so much. I'm Ann. Mike and I have been together for several years now, and I live in Westmoreland. And now we're combining our families, and that's a primary reason to do this. But we also, like Mike mentioned earlier, we chose Milwaukee and Ardenwald. Joaquin has been born and raised in this home, and we want to stay here for quite a while. And we're going to be new grandparents to my daughter, who's having a kid in about 4 weeks. So we're really excited about this. We love the neighborhood. We're really good stewards of the community. We love, sitting on top of the rooftop, to be honest, and especially in the summertime, we watch the sun go down, and we say hi to all the people that drive by or ride by or walk by, and many of which are local neighbors, but also many people we don't know at all that just say, hey, great view, So that is one of the things that we love about this. And also, as Jeremy mentioned, Mike is also I feel like we're the cornerstone of, literally and figuratively speaking, of the entrance into Ardenwald neighborhood. It's a historic home. We want to maintain that traditional style in the addition that we're going to do. Mike has worked in building construction for 20 plus years. Now he works for the city of Portland Parks. So he takes a lot of pride in the green space area around his home before it was even the right of way. The bike path was here. We do keep an eye on things for not just our own home, but also the neighborhood around us and the neighbors around us. And I think we feel that, this is where we want to stay for a while, and that this is just going to enhance and improve this neighborhood and the community. We see a lot of young families moving in and kids, and it's just exciting to see. So thank you for considering this project, and we hope that you'll approve, our addition. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to close the public record for VR-2022-001 for 2807 Southeast Sherrett Street. Public testimony portion of the hearing is now closed. Is the commission ready for discussion?
I did already.
Okay. Does anyone want to get us started?
Oh, that happens.
After you. This is Commissioner Casabratti. I don't really have any issues with the project itself. I mean, I'm not sure what the exact impact City of Portland is concerned about, but I'm not really concerned about their concern. So I am good to go on this.
I'll just
Thank you. Commissioner Hurd.
Echo in that, I'm in favor of this project, and I just wanted to mention that I appreciate seeing the communication and the building of community amongst all of the neighbors that that commented tonight. So it's nice to see.
Thank you.
Chair, this is Commissioner Massey.
Commissioner Gamer. Oh, Commissioner Massey, go ahead.
Yeah, I can support this. I think it's all around a plus for the residents of the property and the neighborhood. And, on an aside, I always find something new. I was kind of always, I found it interesting that we had streets around here that one side of the street was in Milwaukee and across the street was Portland. And now we've discovered a property that's in both Milwaukee and Portland. I just what else are we going to find out? It's just interesting. But at any rate, I can support this project. Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Heemer, did you want to add any comments?
Chair, if I could, I would like to make a motion to approve application VR 2022-001 and adopt the recommended findings and conditions of approval found in attachments 1 and 2.
I can second that motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, is there, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Application VR-2022-001 is approved unanimously. If anyone wishes to appeal this decision to the City Council, you can complete an application stating the grounds for your appeal within 15 days of the mailing of the notice of decision. Please see planning staff for details. The public hearing on the subdivision replat at 10586 and 10610 Southeast Home Avenue is called to order. The purpose of this hearing is to consider application numbers R-2021-004 and VR-2021-019. The purpose of the application is to request approval for the applications associated with the subdivision replat at 10586 and 10610 Southeast Home Avenue. The applicant has the burden of proving that the application is consistent with the City of Milwaukee's zoning and subdivision ordinance, comprehensive plan, any applicable municipal code provisions, and that the proposal conforms with all of the city's applicable criteria. I now ask staff to cite the zoning ordinance section or sections where the criteria can be found.
Thank you, Chair. The applicable sections are Milwaukee Municipal Code Title 12, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places, and the following provisions from Title 17, Land Division, including Chapter 17.12, Application Procedure and Approval Criteria, Chapter 17.16, Application Requirements and Procedures, Chapter 17.20, Preliminary Plat, Chapter 17.28, Design Standards, Chapter 17.32, Improvements, and then also from the Zoning Code, Section 19.301, Low Density Residential Zones, including R5, Chapter 19.500, Supplementary Development Regulations, Section 19.607, Off-Street Parking Standards for Residential Areas, Chapter 19.700, Public Facility Improvements, Section 19.911, Variances, Section 19.1006, Type 3 Review, and Chapter 19.1200, Solar Access Protection.
That was a mouthful. Thanks, Brett. All testimony and evidence must be directed towards the applicable substantive criteria. Failure to address the criterion or raise an issue with sufficient detail to allow the Planning Commission an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue precludes appeal to the City Council based on that issue. Failure to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient detail to allow a response precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Any party with standing may appeal the decision of the Planning Commission to the City Council. Persons with standing are those who submit written comments or testify in person or via Zoom. If you are here to testify, please remember to confine your remarks to the application and the relevant criteria and to avoid repetition and not relevant information. Additional documents or evidence are provided by any party. The Commission may, if requested, allow a continuance or leave the record open to allow the parties a reasonable opportunity to respond. And any such continuance or extension shall be subject to the limitations of the 120-day rule unless the continuance or extension is requested or agreed to by the applicant. Does any member of the Planning Commission wish to abstain from this hearing? Seeing none. Any member of the Planning Commission wish to declare an actual or potential conflict of interest? Seeing none. Does any member of the Planning Commission wish to report on any ex parte contact? Sure.
Sorry, I'm trying to get out of the full view mode, exit full screen, so I can pull up my thing. Sorry, I have to read this. In my position, can I just say I'll check the lawyer later. Can I just say repeat my standard thing? Or do I have to read it every time? I don't know. I'll check later.
Read it. We'll get directions from Justin for next time.
Sorry. In my position as admin for an online community that's in 10,000 neighbors, I frequently read and am tagged with social media posts and comments related to the city of Milwaukee. Some communication may relate to issues being addressed at the Planning Commission. I do not knowingly interact or engage with current issues being addressed at the Planning Commission. Out of approximately 60,000 comments and posts per month, I do not specifically recall any communication related to the subject matter of tonight's hearing, but make this general declaration for the record.
Thank you very much. Any other commissioners wish to declare ex parte contacts? Excellent, thank you. Does anyone have any rebuttal to the ex parte contacts declared by commissioners?
Not seeing.
Brett, anyone raising their hand on Zoom?
Not in the room or on Zoom.
Nope. Thank you. Will any commissioner who has visited the site prior to this hearing please raise their hand? Excellent, thank you all. Do any of those commissioners who visited the site speak to anyone at the site or note anything different from what is indicated in the staff report for this application? Being none. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the participation of any member of the Planning Commission?
Not seeing any indication in the room or in the Zoom.
Thank you, Brett. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission to hear this matter?
Again, not seeing any indication.
Thank you, Brett. Let's proceed to the staff report presentation.
All right, thank you. All right. So this project with the replat and variance file numbers for the two properties addressed 10586 and 10610 Southeast Home Avenue is a project where the two property owners are cooperating to redevelop their lots. They both have similar development potential. They front on Home Avenue but have very large rear yards and are sized for redevelopment given the zoning of these properties. So the proposal will allow them to put each of the three existing houses on the two properties onto their own lot while providing 5 more vacant lots for development. The project does require variances for 2 of the lots because of the location of the existing development, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. They're for lot width and lot area. And the need for fire access has resulted in a proposal to extend Harrison Street from its current terminus west to connect to Home Avenue. The lead application file is for a subdivision replat. That is primarily because of the history of the underlying platted lots. There are 16 of them from a very old subdivision in this area, and the application would essentially kind of erase all of those underlying historical lots and redraw them as is proposed in the preliminary plat. As I noted before, the properties are zoned residential R5, that's our moderate density zone. It's about 1.2 acres, and so with the minimum density requirement for the R5 zone, this property, to achieve the minimum density that's required by the city's code, needs to get 8 units. That's what's being proposed here is 8 different lots. I've indicated here on this slide the couple of standards that are relevant to the variance request. That is the minimum lot width requirement for the R5 zone is 50 feet and the minimum lot area is 5,000 square feet. As proposed, both lots 1 and 4 are slightly undersized, and that is because of the presence of the lots that would be on, the houses that would remain on lots 2 and 3. And the proposed plat and the drawing of the lots is, in staff's assessment, kind of the best that can be done to accommodate the houses on existing lots and not create the need for additional variances for setbacks or, in the cases of lots 5 through 8, variances for lot area for them as well. As I noted earlier, the creation of lots 5 through 8 does require public street frontage for those lots. Obviously, lots 1 through 4 have public street frontage on Home Avenue, but there's a requirement to extend Harrison Street at least as far west as the western boundaries of lots 5 and 7 so that they meet the city's requirement for providing public access. Then the additional requirement to provide fire access, there are a couple of options for that, whether establishing a turnaround or a fire lane. The city's preference and the developer's proposal has been to establish a fire lane that would allow emergency vehicles, fire trucks to go through and not have to turn around. Again, the criteria for variance are the same as for the previous hearing. There's a requirement to provide some analysis of impacts and benefits, and then the applicant has the burden of making the case that the proposed variances for the lot width and lot area, in this case, are reasonable and appropriate, and that there are no impacts related to those variance requests that can't be mitigated somehow. And staff's quick assessment, to quickly summarize our assessment of this, was that once again, given the existing development on the site, configuring the proposed lots 1 and 4 as they are was the most sensible way to, especially in the case of lot 1, to preserve that existing house on its own lot and to not create the need for additional variances for lots 2 and 3 with the houses that are there, and not to impact the lot width or lot area for any of the 4 lots that are to the east. We did get a number of public comments from neighbors about the proposal. Several of them had to do with concerns related to tree removal, and I just wanted to note that presently there are very few protections for trees on private property where the trees are not in a designated natural resource zone. There is an effort underway right now that's, I think, at the City Council for consideration of establishing some tree protections for private property, but those do not apply to this project. It's a common standard is that the project is subject to whatever rules are in place at the time it's submitted. So just to respond to a couple of the comments and concerns about tree removal. Some of the other concerns, probably the bulk of them, were regarding the proposal for connecting the street. And for that, I'd like to turn things over to Steve Adams, the city engineer, to address.
Hello, is this on, it's working? Yes. Okay. Hello, Planning Commission. This is Steve Adams, city engineer. The requirement for fire access, there's various options. The through connection, in my opinion, is the best of the options. I did provide Brett with the variety of turnarounds that's allowed by Clackamas Fire. If I've heard various residents talk about a cul-de-sac, which is a 96-foot diameter. The street width that's proposed is 48, so we're doubling the street width, and it would severely impact the lots, probably reduce it to a 6-lot development. Another one they allow is called a hammerhead, which has a T-shaped, and on the far west edge of lots 5 and 7, the hammerhead requires a 120-foot distance on either side of the T, so 60 feet on either side of the street center lines. Again, you would lose 2 lots. The through street meets council desires for connectivity. It also meets the transportation systems plan desire for connectivity. In my opinion, it will reduce traffic in front of the existing homes in Mission Park by allowing an alternate way out of the subdivision. The transportation engineers book that provides the data on anticipated traffic trips estimates 9.5 trips per single family home. So by adding lots 5 through 8, you're adding approximately 38 trips. that if this road was not extended, all 38 trips would travel in front of every home that lies along Harrison or 51st. My gut feeling is that these lower 4 lots will likely heavily use Home Avenue because it's the most direct way out of the subdivision. And I would anticipate that other drivers, residents in the subdivision would also occasionally use Home. It also allows for a garbage truck to exit the site without having to double back. Any kind of deliveries that are being made could enter one street and exit the other, so you would half the amount of trips by those. And just to me, it is makes the most sense, and it is the most efficient design on all concerns. This is the actual first submitted drawing of the Mission Park subdivision back in 2016. So you can see the north end of 51st was actually flipped, so it borders the west side of the development, not the east side. But you can see here that the Harrison was drawn up and presented to go through to Home at some time in the future. Basically, staff here and the developer recognized the nearly 1.2 acre combined area, those 2 lots, and had the foresight to look at this. When Mission Park was constructed, the end of Harrison was just dead-ended. There was no cul-de-sac, there was no curb, there's no sidewalk, the asphalt, and the curbs just end, and a barricade is erected. So that's a really strong sign that this road was intended to go through in the future. The benefits of connectivity, I mentioned this earlier on, it benefits all modes of travel. We all know that Harrison, 2 blocks to the west, is the Safeway shopping center. It would be a convenient way for peds, cyclists, and motorists to reach that shopping center or go further into downtown without journeying out onto King Road. So it's actually a more direct path for that connectivity. I don't see, I've heard a lot of email, I've read a lot of email about cut-through traffic. It doesn't make sense, doesn't pencil out. Cut-through traffic is for people trying to save time and avoid something that takes longer. To slow down and turn right on Harrison and then to turn left on 51st actually adds time to someone's trip. I don't see a reason why anyone would choose to cut through that if they're planning on going north on Home and east on King. It just, to me, it doesn't make sense. And having the connectivity allows for faster response times for emergency services. Police, fire, ambulance could have 2 access points into this subdivision. And I mentioned the turnaround movements for garbage trucks and delivery vehicles. This is the vision that we have. So when the fire lane was first mentioned, it requires a 20-foot width that is required by Clackamas Fire. In talking to the mayor and others here in the city, we're going to start using more of what this low volume street concept, also known by its Dutch name as a Woonerf design, where it puts all elements on the same street. The first approved Woonerf in the city, low volume street, was 19th Avenue with the Elk Rock subdivision, which was approved in 2020?
Something like 2019, 2020.
Yeah, it's been a while. They have not built that yet, but it is the first approved Woonerf. We have approved plans. We're just waiting for the developer to work forward with that. This is also the design that we're looking for in a lot of our low volume streets with our CIP projects. So right now we have a project in the Ardenwall North area, north of Roswell and west of 32nd, that we're considering using this design. We presented this design to council in January. Council was all pretty enthusiastic about it for the fact that we're looking to make our streets less car-centric, more for everybody. The cost of curb, gutter, and sidewalk runs around $85, $90 a foot for a 5-foot wide sidewalk. Thought process here is that a lot of funds could be stretched much further by having on low volume streets, having cars and bicyclists on a Sherrett side, a 14-foot wide Sherrett side of the street, have a marked pedestrian way on the far side of the street. If an opposing car or traffic came by, you needed more than 14 feet to get around, one vehicle would be allowed to temporarily enter into the pedestrian way and then come back over into the Sherrett Street. This would be signed at 20 miles per hour because that's the typical speed limit for a greenway type street. My estimate that for the short length of this and for how it looks when it's first constructed, I would expect speeds more in the 10 to 15 mile per hour range because people will be very uncertain what they are driving on. And I think the fact of having peds or bikes on the street will further encourage people to go at a slower speed. And I threw this together just as these are numbers. So I looked at a traveling from Jackson just to King and 51st. And using the speed limits we have right now, I measured it off on city maps, gave you the distances, converted miles per hour into feet per second, divided it out, and you spend 10 seconds more turning on Harrison and going north on 51st, which if you're going east on King Road, I still don't see any reason why someone would detour and take 10 seconds of their time to go through this neighborhood.
Thank you. So with that, I think I just wanted to wrap up and say that staff's assessment of the proposed replat with the variances, that it meets all applicable standards and criteria, including as we discussed for the two variances for lot width and lot area. And we've recommended approval of the replat and the variances. So with that, you have the standard suite of options here to approve the application with the findings and conditions that were recommended and put in the addendum to the packet. If you, through your discussions, decide you'd like to make some changes or modifications, we just need to get those read into the record and would need some direction about adjusting accordingly. There's an option to continue the hearing if you decide that more information or deliberation is needed, or you can deny the application, which we would also need some direction from you about how to readdress the applicable criteria. So with that, we'll ask if you have any questions for staff.
Chair, this is Commissioner Massey. I have
any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is, I think, best probably addressed by the city engineer. I read in a number of the emails by citizens a desire for speed bumps. And, you know, I think that there's a number of questions in my own mind about speed bumps and their effectiveness. Or, you know, so could you address the issue of speed bumps in this scenario?
Well, there's three types: there's speed bump, speed hump, and a speed cushion. Probably more than that. Those are the three that I'm familiar with. Yeah. So, and they all mean something different. So, a speed bump is approximately 3 feet long, 6 inches high. Speed cushions are 6 to 8 feet long, 6 inches high. Speed humps. Speed cushions have the same dimensions of a speed hump, but they have wheel wells cut out 8 feet apart for fire trucks. So if you've been lately on 42nd on the north end with our current project, we just installed 2 speed cushions last Friday. And also if you ever go up Flavel from where my office is, JCB, City of Portland installed 10 speed cushions on Flavel to help slow traffic down. So speed cushion is one thing that the fire department will allow because it doesn't slow down their response times because their trucks can travel through the slotted wheels, slots in the humps. Police will still be slowed because they drive cars like we do. We can only get two wheels in the slot and the 2 over the hump. They have various effectiveness. Studies have shown that if not spaced close enough, that people will speed up between them to make up for that 2 seconds they lost slowing down for them. I'm throwing 2 seconds out there. I have really no idea how much time you lose. But studies say that you have to space them every 400 to 500 feet to maintain a 25-ish mile per hour. Otherwise, people, and even then, people speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down. If you live adjacent to a speed hump, anybody with squeaky brakes, you'll hear as they slow down, and then you'll hear them rev up their engines as they accelerate away. So, and the third thing that happens, and I have gotten complaints on this in this city, is that for large trucks going over a speed hump, they can actually cause vibrations that can be felt in many of our older homes. So the speed humps we have on 32nd actually are not very popular because the amount of buses we have on 32nd, and I've had complaints from residents on 32nd about the vibrations felt in their house. But and there's probably a lot more than that. That's just off the top of my head what I know right now about the pluses and minuses of them.
Thank you.
I have a question, Chair Edge, if I may.
Go ahead.
This is for you again, Mr. Adams. So it looks like that Llewellyn Street ends up in what you refer to as a hammerhead in the drawing that was presented with Mission Park, or at least in the overhead. And it looks like that hammerhead did not actually affect two houses to be built there. In fact, it looks like that the driveways are used as a hammerhead. Is that the case? Because it is a dead-end street, can driveways be used as the hammerheads to get to your 180 feet? Or is there something special that we gave Llewellyn Street?
I'm not familiar of the hammerhead being on Llewellyn and then the driveway.
Could you bring up the overhead map so that we have a point of reference, please, Brett?
And I'm not sure if we can even measure it. So a true hammerhead's 120 feet.
Which, do you want an overhead, like?
One on the old plat, that one there. Nope.
That works just as well.
One.
Sorry, there's a little delay here.
Not that one.
Not that one.
The one of the,
We need the one that shows at least Llewellyn Street.
the 2015 one?
That?
That works.
That?
So you see Llewellyn, there ends in a dead end.
Mm-hmm.
And so 5 and 6 do meet each, 5 and 6, right?
Yeah, the plat's actually a little bit different, maybe a different one that shows the current subdivision plat.
Yeah.
That's not exactly the way it's shaped.
I don't have that at hand.
Just do the overhead.
Okay.
Do the overhead. It will work. So Llewellyn is the street to the north of, or up. Sorry, I'm directionally challenged. Up from Harrison there. And that is, would be technically a dead-end street, correct? Which then would need a treatment for fire trucks to be able to back in and back out of. Am I making a bad assumption there?
Fire department has a minimum length of a street that they would then require a hammerhead on. I don't think Llewellyn meets that minimum length.
But Harrison does because of that. I'm assuming that that lot line is still going to end where 10522 abuts, or 10556. That lot line is going to fall straight down where you widen that street out to get those two extra lots in there. So it seems that would almost be equal distance, but I guess if the street ends before the driveway and they maybe cut it down by 5 feet or something like that on the length of the street. But I guess we don't know what the length of Llewellyn is.
Looking at the asphalt of the street and the concrete of the driveways, and if we had a copy of the plat, the original one that I saw up there from the other slide shows those two westerly lots touching each other and not fronting on a right-of-way. The right-of-way, the front is on the east edge of the lots. So Llewellyn actually dead ends into the two lots, and then the private driveways is the concrete. And if the fire department, if that was going to become a formal hammerhead, no parking would be allowed on it. You have to sign it as no parking.
Okay, all right, perfect. I guess that answers that question. Now my city nerd's gonna come out here. Is the Home Avenue sidewalk project designated to extend beyond Monroe up to King?
Yes, it is. It's going to go from King down to Railroad.
Is the city gonna be able to get the benefits of the developer putting in at least some sort of sidewalk on Home Avenue that will defer some costs to the city on the project?
The sidewalk the city has approved and currently just beginning constructions on the west side of Home. So having a sidewalk on the east side of Home would not be beneficial because it wouldn't connect to anything. So what I proposed on another sketch that Brett does not show tonight, that when the fire lane is connected, that we will have where the fire lane meets Home, we'll have the pedestrian way come off the street. We'll put an ADA ramp, a curb ramp there that will then direct traffic across Home to the ADA ramp and the sidewalk on the west side of Home. So a person could walk down Harrison, access the ADA ramp, cross Home, and then get on the sidewalk on the west side.
And the developer would be responsible for that ADA ramp?
The way it is right now, the city is offering to pay it because the developer is only required to put in a fire access. And to make this more pedestrian friendly for the Woonurf design of the material to divide the pedestrian from the Sherrett vehicle lane, for the Sherrett markings on the one side, for the pedestrian markings on the other side. We have to build a temporary asphalt connection to the sidewalk that's being constructed in front of Lot 7, is it?
Lot 7's on the north
side. So we need a temporary connection from the end of the concrete sidewalk to the fire lane Woonurf Street, and we need another connection up to the ADA ramp. Lot 4, which faces Home, is responsible for frontage improvements of 40 feet. I don't need frontage improvements there. We need frontage improvements on the far side. So I would offer to take a FELOC, fee in lieu of construction, for that 40-foot of frontage, utilize some of those funds for the improvements, the sidewalk tie-in on both the east and west side, the curb ramp, and the markings on the fire lane to make it a Woonurf. I would offer that as a reimbursement to the developer to get what I consider a more bike and ped friendly connection.
And then just one more question, if I can, Chair. We in the past have discussed these smaller access streets by, kind of blocking, or the idea was kind of, making sure that traffic doesn't come on them. We had one that ended up being a gate to still allow fire access, but not traffic access. We have suggested ballards, removable ballards in the past. Why consider this to be a through street and not really just a pedestrian access area?
The ones where we've allowed a gate on were the backside of Henley Place, where the extension of 23rd, where it enters into a private parking area. And we did not want the residents of Henley Place to exit via 23rd and impact the existing homes on 23rd. So that's why we required that one there. The other one that we talked about was at the Hillside development at the north end of 29th, where 29th meets the subdivision. And on there, the neighborhoods to the north were very unhappy about wanting traffic through, and there'd be various routes to go till you got over to 32nd. None of those streets north of Hillside have sidewalks or ready. I mean, 29th itself is a greenway bike sharing lane, but there's no other accommodations up there. And it made more sense to have the traffic exit on the proposed Meek Street and Dyer connections to 32nd. And not have them spread through a residential neighborhood to the north. This here is essentially doing the same thing. It's taking traffic out of Mission Park. It's putting a little more traffic on Home Avenue, but Home is a neighborhood collector, so it is designed to carry a little bit more. It's expected to carry a little bit more. Home is being completely rebuilt with the Home Avenue project. The road is going to be demolished and completely reconstructed, so a brand new road. And with the sidewalk, it just makes sense to make this connection here because of the layout.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
That's all I have.
Any other questions from the commissioners? I've got a question, probably for Steve as well. Is there an opportunity to sign the Wooner as a 15-mile-an-hour segment instead of a 20-mile-an-hour segment?
Not currently, I don't think. 20 miles per hour is our limit provided by the state. To go down to 15 mile per hour, which we have a few signs down in the island station, the state law states that you can do a 15 mile per hour when the asphalt width is less than 16 feet wide. But a less than 16 foot wide asphalt width doesn't meet Clackamas Fire District requirements of 20 feet. So I don't think I can legally put a 15 mile per hour on that Wooner. I can't put 20 though.
Oh. Okay, great, thank you. Last call for questions from the commission for staff. Okay. Let's see, so we'll move on to applicant testimony. Would the applicant or their representatives like to, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Have we received any correspondence on this matter other than those items included in the meeting packet?
We have, since the publishing of the addendum to the packet, which I think happened last Thursday, we did get a few more comments, one from Lee Garnett, follow-up comments from Allison Cruz, new comments from Dylan Cruz. We had a message that was provided from the city engineer, which outlined some of the information he provided again tonight. And then earlier today, we got a comment from Wayne Hauk that was forwarded on to you. But no other comments besides those.
Thank you. Now we'll move into the applicant testimony. Would the applicant or the representative like to comment?
Yep, the applicant's here and is approaching the presentation table.
Thank you, and just make sure that you state your name and city of residence for the record before you get started.
Let's look forward, or do I look to you guys?
It's confusing. You can.
Yeah, the camera that's broadcasting to Zoom is to your right, if you want to look.
This way?
Yeah, you can look that way. There you go.
Yeah, how about,
I look forward.
well, I mean, it's a hybrid.
Hi,
set.
everybody. My name's Mark Dane. I live at 825 Southeast 32nd Avenue, Portland, Oregon, 97214. I'm here representing the two property owners and the developer for this property. I asked him just to step up to introduce himself to you. If you just want to put your name and...
Yeah. Do you guys mind turning up the mics?
It's really hard.
I can't hear you.
Hi, my name's Mark Dane. I live at 825 Southeast 32nd Avenue, Portland, Oregon, 97214. I'm here representing both the property owners and the developer this evening.
Hi, I'm Alex Shaw. I own 10610 Southeast Home Ave. I just want to introduce myself. This is my first development project. I'm very excited and want to make a good situation for everybody.
I asked him to come up here because I prefer whoever's developing the property to be front and center rather than sort of lurking at the back. I think it's important that everybody's up front and that everybody gets to hear what is happening.
Sorry, you just have to be really close to the mic, I think.
I think it's important. Can you hear me now? I think it's important that everybody be up front, and what I wanted to do this evening was to not regurgitate what Brett has mentioned, but just to discuss two things briefly and then step back because I want to hear what the neighbors have to say. There was a substantial amount of opposition to this project, so I want to make sure we hear what the neighbors have to say and then try and come up with a constructive solution tonight. So that being said, the project, as you can see, retains 3 homes, 2 lots, 3 homes, and if we didn't retain the homes, if we demolished both the homes, we wouldn't need the variances. We only need the variances because we are trying to preserve the existing homes there. That's the need for the variance. In terms of pushing the street through, when we first submitted this application to the city, it was made clear to us the city engineer preferred that, the fire marshal preferred that. There's a public sanitary main, there's an 8-inch public sanitary main that runs in the ground currently on private property. It needs to be in a public right-of-way. You don't run public sanitary mains on private property, but it's there. There was also the fact that the property to the east had a street stub. And lastly, that the previous project had shown this street connecting. So based upon all that material, we felt it best to move forward with a street connection. The other items are that currently that street to the east exceeds the code standard for a cul-de-sac. It doesn't comply with the code. It was never intended to be a cul-de-sac. It was always intended to be a through street. And secondly, this block exceeds the city's code for a block length. So currently, the street and the block do not meet current city standards. Putting that street through would allow the street to comply with the fire marshal, comply with the circulation and block length, and that's why we proceeded that way. However, there does seem to be substantial opposition. I'm not going to live there. He does. And I want to see if we can figure something out. So what we want to do at this point, rather than go through everything, is to listen to what the neighbors have to say and then come back in some form of rebuttal that we feel is constructive and figure a way forward. Okay.
Let's take a pause here for a second. Some members of the IS can't hear. So we're thinking that we should just move everybody up because we're not going to be able to fix it on the speaker. So we're going to just move everybody up a little bit so we can get a little bit closer.
Yeah, maybe if he's addressing us more that way, that's good too. Okay.
Yeah, he's that combination of trying to address all the people at the same time. So hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier to hear.
I'm just trying to speak to the people in the room. Apologies to the people not in the room. I don't want to use up any.
We hear you just fine.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
We can hear you just fine.
Okay. I don't want to use up any more of your time. I want to listen to what you have to say, take some notes, and then be able to respond and see if we can figure a way forward. So with that, if you have any questions of me before I step down.
Yeah, I do actually.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from the commissioners?
Counselor Body?
Commissioner Counselor Body?
There seems, in a lot of the public comments, there seems to be a lack of information provided. Do you have a response to that?
There is the information provided was the information provided for us. It was accepted as complete by the city. There's been no change to the plans. The notice has been issued per the code. The staff planner has written it and has received all the letters. All the letters, I believe, have been in the package when they came or have been noted when they weren't. We have a public hearing that's been noticed. I'm not exactly, I understand people may believe that they haven't received notice, but I don't know what more we could have done. And I don't know what statute we didn't comply with or what code we didn't comply with. I followed the directions I was given and I thought we met all the code criteria. I apologize because people often feel caught on their back foot, but that's why we have the hearing tonight and that's why I want to listen and see if we can come up with a constructive solution.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's sit down.
Any other questions from the commission before the applicant gets too far away? Okay. So we'll move on to audience testimony. So do we have anyone who wishes to testify on the application? And for each person who does, please remember to begin your testimony by stating your name and city of residence for the record. And I may, Brett, is there a sense of how many people would like to testify at this point?
Yeah, we have 3 comment cards filled out here in the room, and I have 2 hands raised in the virtual meeting. So right now we have a total of 5 comments.
Okay, well then I think that's reasonable. We'll just ask those who are testifying to please try to keep your remarks to no more than 3 minutes, but I don't think we're going to strictly enforce that. Just as a matter of respect to everybody, please try to keep them under 3 minutes. With that, Brett, could you start to invite people to comment?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and I've got
We can start with someone in the room.
Sure, we can start with somebody in the room.
Sure. Yeah, Kelsey Neely. Is it Neely? Neely? Okay. Come on up to the presentation table.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for your time tonight. I'm Kelsey Neely, and I live at 10458 Southeast 51st Avenue. I've been a homeowner there for about 1.5 years, and I had my first conversation about this project with Stefan, one of the homeowners, and also working with the development team. When I asked about the project about 6 months ago, he indicated to me that there were going to be 4 more homes going in, and that they were not going to put the street through. That was not in their plan, and they were going to dead end the street with bollards so that emergency vehicles could pass through and also pedestrians. So at that point, considering he was the decision maker of this project and submitting the plans, I trusted that and I shared that information with the other neighbors. So up until that sign was posted, we were all under the impression that we didn't need to prepare any further statements or have any further questions or even have our own representation as a neighborhood opposing this through traffic. So it was really surprising to learn of this change. Again, some of the neighbors and I got together and spoke to Stefan on Saturday. He said he showed us his plans that were submitted and did not indicate through traffic for cars other than allowing through emergency vehicles, and there would be bollards up. So we have not had adequate time to prepare as a neighborhood for this plan and this revision. And again, I'm just unclear and confused along with a lot of the other neighbors as to when this change took place, considering that Stefan is still under the impression that there were just going to be bollards up.
Chair, may I ask Ms. Neely a question, please?
Please.
So you would be okay with the through street if there was a ballard, a removable ballard, because that's what Clackamas Fire would require. It's removable by Clackamas Fire. At the end of the street, or at least near Home Avenue. Is that correct?
I think that that is a compromise for this entire project. So I know that some neighbors don't want the development at all. I know that some neighbors want a turnaround. My personal decision is that I think bollards up to allow for the emergency vehicles to pass through as well as pedestrian access is the strongest compromise to their developmental plan.
Okay, thank you.
And in benefiting the city as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna promote in someone from the online portion.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll promote in. I think it's Sandy Conley. Sandy, I'm gonna promote you in as a panelist. Just give it a second here. And you are free to unmute yourself, and if you want to share video, you can as well. You're showing up on our screen. We see your name. So unmute when you're ready and go ahead and state your name and city of residence.
My name is Sandy Conley, and I live at 10434 Southeast 51st Avenue, Milwaukee, Oregon. And my concern is that we weren't provided with adequate notice. Nothing was posted until, let me pull my calendar up here. March 6th of the planned meeting. On March 5th, we received notification that this meeting was happening. And I personally had planned over spring break, non-refundable rental fees that I had already paid. And that's why I'm attending remotely. And I don't feel that neighbors have had enough time to discuss how any option that we might present would impact us. That is not this, I asked how many days are required, and it's 20 days. I understand you may have put your notice in the mail 20 days in advance, but nothing was posted 20 days in advance.
Do you have any questions from the commissioners for Sandy? Okay, thank you for your comments. Brett, next person in the room, please.
Okay, Chris McKillop.
Good evening. Thank you, commissioners and staff. You've been very helpful facilitating communications, keeping us informed. Findings were posted, I think, 5 days ago. It's hard for the lay person to digest this, and then 2 of those days were over a weekend, so hard to consult an expert too. So I think I'd agree with Sandy on that. I don't know the legalities. Land use is a niche area of law. So I want to address 2 things that Mr. Adams said.
Could you please state your name? Could you please state your name and city of residence for the record before you
Chris McKillop. I've been a resident of Milwaukee since 1995. So I live at 5101 Southeast Jackson. So my lot backs up to the Mission Park. What shows as a cul-de-sac on the original drawing, which Mr. Adams brought up for the original Mission Park development, that cul-de-sac would be where my goats are grazing right now. Well, they should be in the shed, but so there are a couple of things that I'd like to point out about that. I think it was Exhibit J that he showed. I don't know what slide it was that you had up there, but you showed the original Mission Park plan and how it was designed to punch through to home. And that's understandable, but the drawing you showed us was a full width street going through to home. That's not what you've got going here. Correct. So also you're showing the cul-de-sac, that would have some effect on this, and that kind of, not cul-de-sac, but it's the 90-degree turn from 51st to Harrison, and that's my backyard. So if you're gonna do this and have a cut through without having that little turn there, I think it just doesn't seem right. In terms of the WUNRF, so I'm just rushing through because 3 minutes goes fast. WUNRF, first of all, cool word, fun to think of the Netherlands and bikes, and we love riding bikes. I bike to work when the weather's good. But there's a definite difference in feeling when you're on a sidewalk or down in the street. If I'm walking on King, which sometimes I do, I stay on the sidewalk. You could get in the bike path. Sometimes people have to because the baby carriage is going on the sidewalk, and you walk and you step down onto the street. How do you feel? You got a marking on the street protecting you. That's a different feel to it, right? Next thing, I think there is common ground, and I really appreciate Mr. Dane's approach in this, in wanting to hear our point of view, the neighbors. I don't really have that much skin in the game because I'm on Jackson. I'm not affected by this traffic, but I think there are solutions, and staff in the staff report brought up, that there were just 2 options. I think we can come up with more. I think there would be a lot of questions though about what are the rules about how long does a street have to be before you hammerhead, or before can you flag lot it? It could be a nice little project. It could be a real benefit, to both neighborhoods doing this. So, it'd be nice to be able to have more of a dialogue and not have a clock going like that. And connectivity, if the Mission Park people are saying we don't want it, and the people who buy into these say 4 new homes on the new street are presumably they don't care, because if it was still not a cut through, they don't care. They're buying it. They're like just happy to have a house in this wonderful neighborhood. So if neither neighborhood is really wanting it, what are we doing? The staff report tells us at the bottom of page 5 and the top of page 6, it is all about its connectivity. This principle, it's this wholly abstract that we're, trying to meet that. And I can see why the city wants that, but you got plenty of connectivity for cars already. You've got 55th Avenue. In this neighborhood, yes, you do. You're shaking your head there, Steve. So, Home Avenue goes over to King, 55th goes over to King. They can cut through my street, Jackson, already. They can go down Monroe. I'm curious, staff seems to imply on the bottom of page 5 and top of page 6 that there's really nothing to worry about here, because there's not going to be that much traffic on this through street. Well, then why are we doing it? I think the language actually on the bottom of page 5 is, there's no real incentive for non-residents of the area to use the proposed new street connection. That's a quote. Top of page 6, narrow streets with multiple turns are not attractive cut-through routes because they actually slow drivers down and calm traffic. Well, okay, people get lost. Page 64, Mr. Dane made the same exact comment. It's interesting, the same comment that you made, Mr. Adams, about why would anybody do 3 turns to get to King instead of the 1 turn off a Home onto King? I think that's a great question. Well, people make mistakes. We see it all the time. They get onto a road and then they just, okay, whoa, where am I? Gun it. The Amazon and UPS delivery drivers come down 51st routinely. They come up to my back fence, the ding, 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 and I'm jumping because I'm in the backyard. What is that? And it's the big brown truck or the big blue truck. And they're coming down and they turn around and pull up near Kelsey's driveway. And they don't feed the goats, so good for them. But anyway, those guys are going to be coming in and out of this neighborhood quite a bit, and they're going to go down that little fire road. So I think there's ways to put some bollards either at the end where 5048 Southeast Harrison, that one street that's on Southeast Harrison already, put them on one side or the other. It's already able to be served by the fire department. I'm sure there's a good engineering reason why you can't just bring the street in that way, but I bet we could be creative and find a way. Anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions from the commission? Brett, the next person in Zoom, please.
All right. We're going to go to Lee Garnett. So Lee, let me promote you in. All right, Lee, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Please state your name and city of residence for the record.
Lee, we can't really hear you. Actually, at all. Lee, I'm not sure what to recommend.
2 variances.
Sorry, hey, we can just now are starting to hear you. So if you said some things, the first thing we heard was something about 2 variances. Maybe you want to start again?
Oh, sure, sorry, is this better?
State your name and your city of residence.
Lee Garnett, Milwaukee, since 2000. Questions were, how common are variances in property subdivisions, and does the Planning Commission have authority to impose mitigation in exchange for variances?
Did you hear that okay, Brett?
I did. Do you want me to go ahead and respond now or respond after we've been through all the comments?
We can probably respond at the end. Did you have any additional questions, Mr. Garnett?
No more questions, but I do have some comments, and I timed this.
Okay, please.
I timed this to about 5 minutes, so I can try to read quickly, or maybe I can edit on the way. I wanted to make it clear first that I'm speaking for myself as a neighborhood member and as a tree advocate, but not the tree board. I think we need a little bit of history about the Mission Park development. I last testified to the Planning Commission when it was considering the Mission Park development. I couldn't understand why we were about to cut down a 2.5 acre forest with more than 100 trees that were from 50 to 90 years old. At first, every single tree was proposed for cutting at Mission Park, but we were able to negotiate to save a handful of trees, including the 3 that are on the corner of Llewellyn and 51st Avenue. But there were about 20 trees that were 40 or more inches in diameter, including a 54-inch ponderosa pine, which is likely the largest of its species in Milwaukee. These trees were so large that the ground shook at my house about 200 feet away when the biggest ones were cut. The larger ones were bucked and cut to mill length. Sent to the mill, apparently. We lost a huge chunk of Milwaukee's canopy. I submitted a map, I don't know if you could show that, of the canopy that was at Mission Park, and you can see that it was one of the largest green splotches in Milwaukee. The original property owners lived in 2 houses that were torn down for the subdivision. There was just a little dirt driveway that led in from King Road, and the forest was so thick that you couldn't see the houses until they logged the trees. The new property developer sold the property again after putting in the infrastructure. It was just a timber sale to him, apparently. The Planning Commission was concerned at the time about the loss of so many trees, but it was defenseless without a tree code. This development, though, led to the birth of the Milwaukee Tree Board. I am the only original member, and we've been working on the new code for about 3 years. It may pass as early as next month. So it really concerns me when we're facing a new development in the same area that would take trees just before a new law is going to come in, even though this project does not take nearly as many trees as Mission Park. On the board, I've learned 3 undeniable things about trees and the city's goal to increase our canopy from 28 to 40%. We'll never meet the goal by planting new trees. We have to save the big ones that provide canopy. And thirdly, our property.
You cut out, Lee.
You got muted.
Let's see.
There you go.
On the board, did you get my 3 things that I've learned? We'll never meet the canopy goals by planting trees. We have to save the big ones. And thirdly, the biggest threat to canopy is when a property is subdivided for development. It seems to me that the proposal before you right now does too many backflips to endorse the wishes of the developer. The houses on the southernmost properties, 10544 Home Avenue and 105A6, they're 65 years old, but they were bought only 3 years ago. The house at 1610 is 68 years old and was bought just last April, which brings me to draw a comparison of how different this is from the first project that you looked at. This looks more like a real estate speculation, and one of the properties was actually advertised as a development opportunity. Altogether, this, as you mentioned, this covers 1.19 acres. But if the old houses weren't there, wouldn't the maximum density requirement be for 7 lots and not 8 lots? Is there any guarantee that these houses won't be torn down in the near future? Remember, this is apparently, a major real estate project. I'm especially concerned about lot 4 because it has a large fir tree that will be cut down. This is by far the most significant tree that would be lost. This lot would require 2 type 3 variances. The developer apparently, though, just wants to clear this lot and not build on it. The developer wants to pay $12,530 to avoid making frontage improvements on lot 4. In order to approve a type 3 variance, the variance must meet one of the 3 criteria that you mentioned. The first is that it avoids or minimizes impact to surrounding properties. And that doesn't seem to be the case because Mission Park homeowners say it's going to have a great impact. The property owner at 10618 Home, which is just south of the property, will lose shade from losing the big fir. The second criteria is that the development has desirable public benefits, and I really don't understand the staff recommendation where it says it would provide additional fire safety to the homes on the current sub of Southeastern Harrison. Does this mean that those homes that now exist on Southeast Harrison? The third criteria is that it responds to the existing or natural environment. The staff recommendation says it responds because 3 houses will be saved, but 2 houses were removed from Mission Park. And do you have any guarantee that the 3 relevant old houses on home will not be torn down shortly after this is approved? This is just too large a project not to be reviewed by the Neighborhood District Association by Hector Campbell, NDA. I don't know if you're planning to do that, but I certainly believe you should. And so I ask that you continue this project and deny variances on lot 4, because if you can, because the developer will still make a huge profit off 7 lots, and I think more will be created if inevitably the 3 houses are torn down. So thank you. I'm sorry if I ran over 3 minutes.
6.5, but that's okay. Just counting. Any questions from the commission for Mr. Garnett? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Garnett. And Brett, I'll ask you to respond to any of his questions, when we get around to you at the end. And then, is there anyone else in the room that testified?
Yeah, we do. We have another person in the room. We have a couple more online. So in the room next, Axis Espinosa.
Hello everybody, I'm Axis. I live on the corner of 51st and Llewellyn. And I went outside physically and I measured the streets, so I wanted to go over some things on the map. Do you have the one we used
with the aerial? You want with the aerial view?
Well, the one we used earlier, where you can see it better, the whole... Okay, that's fine.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine, I can use this. That's fine.
Sorry.
Okay. So, with my measuring tool, back to what he said, when you corner right here, this only measures 18.5 and then it opens up just drastically right here to the 25 that this has. And then Home Street has a little bit more. I've measured it on 3 different areas on this street and went up to 35 feet on some and 7 feet, give or take 7 feet, average 5 feet larger than our actual 50. Narrowing to 18.5 here. All right. The other thing must be noted is we have on both sides of the street we have cement embankments. So what that means to us is we, as a community, a lot of us have to use the street as parking. The average size of a car in the U.S. is 5 feet 10 inches, and I bring that up because on home you don't have that. On home, most lots, and I hear we're going to propose, I guess they're going to build sidewalks. On home, apart from the street being larger, each, on both sides, the lots have space for their cars to actually park on that outside of that street. Of course, newer homes are being built, smaller lots. So with the pandemic, a lot of us, I've noticed on my street, have built gyms into our garages, so we're having to use the street. So apart from having a smaller street and having to use that street to park, you're wanting to build a through street where it's going to be almost like a little to get by. So I don't foresee safety-wise, I think it's going to be a worse safety scenario. My husband and I bike to work as our preference. We're avid cyclists on the road. And you'll see us more often. And I'll tell you right now, if that is a through street right there, I would never go that way. I'll tell you why, because on King, there's marked spots for bikes. And when you bike through a neighborhood, there's too much debris. So for me, as a road cyclist, I don't bike through neighborhoods because I'm at risk for falls because of all the debris. They don't get cleaned as often as, per se, a bigger road like King Road that has demarcated lanes for us. So I don't foresee the benefits of the connectivity, even though it's important to us because we bike to work. I would never use that particular area. The other thing I want to bring up, lastly, is you can't see it, but in front of this house right here on King, there is a bus stop, okay? Now, I use that sometimes to go to work. People that use that bus stop, either it won't be from this little angle here, the benefits will be from people coming down this way or directly up from home. So honestly, is it gonna matter to have an extra little street right here when people who use the bus stop it's closer to go straight up and over than it is to come and go around, make a C, and then come back in to go to the bus stop. So it creates a longer route for them, for me. So I foresee, from all the comments I've heard tonight, I think we just need to give it more time to really sit down, come up with a solution, give us time to put all the thoughts together. I don't think we have enough information tonight to make a decision on this. Thank you.
Any questions from the commission? Thank you. Brett, the next Zoom commenter, please.
All right, I'll promote in Cameron and Heather McKillop. Give it a second here.
It looks like we still have Mr. Garnett connected as a panelist.
I'm moving him out. All right. So Cameron and Heather, you're in, and
Thank you.
Okay.
you're unmuted. Just state your name and city of residence, please.
Cameron McKillop, Milwaukee.
Heather Buchanan, Milwaukee.
Yeah, so we live on the end house on Harrison, and we just wanted to say that not in favor of the 3 Street. I think that it just adds some danger to, it's a lot of families with young kids on this street, and so I think that it unnecessarily adds danger with more people cutting through. I think that the argument of connectivity is a little bit weak because, I mean, I drive out of this neighborhood every day, never have a problem getting off on King. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? All right, thank you very much. Brett, next up.
All right, we'll go to Wayne Hauk. Wayne, I'm promoting you in as a panelist. Give it a second. All right, Wayne, you're in. If you'll unmute and just state your name and city of residence.
My name is Wayne Hauk. I live at 5016 Llewellyn Street. So my property backs up to, I don't know what lot it is, but it's where lot 1 and 2 is. It's that lot right behind 1 and 2. I have a couple of issues or comments. One is regarding the setback variance for lot number 3. Supposed to have 5-foot setback, and there's only going to be a 3.6 setback on lot 3 where the road is. So I have concerns about that. Also, there was some talk about the developer demolishing the house on lot 3 and leaving that as an open space. I don't know whatever happened to that plan. The next issue that I had is regarding clear vision, the clear vision standards. Evidently, when Mission Park was developed, there may be a variance put in, but the intersection of 51st and King, there is no clear vision. It's a very dangerous intersection. There's almost a cutout where 2 cars really can't be in that intersection at the same time, one coming in into 51st and one trying to go out. There's, I don't know, it's just weird how they have it. If you can pull it up, how it's designed, but it's certainly no clear vision when you turn on to King Street, either going left or right. And lastly, I don't see how I don't know if the measurements is wrong, but I don't see how there's enough room for 7 houses in that area. If you look at kind of where the property lines of the current houses are, it just doesn't add up that there's room for 4 additional houses in that open area, the new lots. But that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? All right, thank you. Brett, next commenter.
All right, I'm going to check. I'm seeing Sandy Conley's hand is raised. I'm going to just allow her to talk and ask. We did hear testimony from her earlier. I'm going to check and see if she wants to provide additional testimony or if the hand raise is inadvertent. Sandy, did you have additional comments to share?
I just have yes, I have a question. Is the new Home Avenue improvement project going to include any street parking?
Okay, thank you. We'll address that when we have a chance for staff response. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any other hands raised in the attendee pool, and we haven't received any other comment cards from other folks in the room. Oh, wait, sorry, I've got Tamara Wisbaum. Sorry, thanks. Hang on a second.
Brett, I have a couple more things I'd like to say too, if we have time.
All right, let us get through this. All right, Tamara, you're in as a panelist. If you'll unmute and just state your name and city of residence.
Hi, this is Tamara Wisbaum. I live at 10450 Southeast 51st. And my husband Tom and I, we were the first people to move into the Mission Park development. And we moved here after being homeowners in Southwest Portland, Dunthorpe for 40 years. We primarily moved here because it was a no outlet dead end, and knowing that other nice young families with children and pets and so forth would be moving in for the safety factor. And it was our first time moving to Milwaukee, and we weren't sure about the area, but we have soon come to love it, and primarily because we love our dead end, safe, no outlet, no through street community. And we were told by the developer that we bought from that it was going to remain that way, that they would probably be building some sort of a pedestrian walking path, but that would be all that there would be, that it was too narrow through there to build any kind of a through traffic street. But with all of it I've been listening to tonight, it sounds like we really have been misled. We'll probably lose this battle, and that it's going to be a heavily trafficked, disrupted area now, because if you're going to have all this construction going on with Home Street, where's all the construction parking and construction traveling people going to go? They're going to cut through Harrison and 51st, and it's going to be very, very disconcerting for all of the homeowners that live here, that move to this development for the safety and quiet and not wanting to have a through street. So I really hope that this is highly considered and that they don't open the street other than for a pedestrian walking path if they have to open it for something. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? All right, thank you. Brett, anyone else?
Yeah, we don't have any more hands raised virtually. There was a question in the room about, from Kelsey asking to make additional comments or questions, raise questions. And technically, I think once you've testified, that's your opportunity. I don't know if we'll defer to the chair to see if you want to allow an opportunity for any further question or set a time limit on that.
If it's just to add a question into the record for staff to respond to, that would be fine.
She said it's a comment. I think the ship has sailed on the comments.
I thought I could maybe go again because Sandy went twice.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to be fair. Please go ahead.
In part, in all fairness, because I couldn't tell what her hand raise was. So,
could you please pull up the neighborhood map again? I just want to address one of my earlier concerns that I wrote in about, just to really press the issue of safety in the neighborhood for our kids and our pets. I mean, this one works. So this is like just a 90-degree angle there, and there are some blind spots to this, as well as my home is right here, and I back right out into here, and, you know, with traffic could, you know, heading right towards me from this street. I also am just concerned about the strangers passing through the neighborhood in their vehicles. All of us in this development, you know each other, and we respect each other. We understand who lives where, who has pets, where the kids are, if they're, you know, driving by slowly in front of each other's homes. And we welcome these 4 new families in the same way that we've all welcomed each other. And I think we're all going to be under the same understanding of our neighborhood and our community and the respect for each other and our families. Whereas strangers passing through wouldn't have this knowledge and necessarily the same kind of respect. And so, you know, I know you guys talk a lot about connectivity, but if we all feel like we are happy to exit to King Road, you know, and I would make the assumption that as a buyer potentially of one of those homes, I would want to be living on a dead-end street. That would be attractive for me as a buyer. And so I also feel like they too wouldn't mind, you know, having to drive a little bit longer, you know, to get where they want to go, perhaps. I mean, it almost seems like it's almost kind of the same distance to King from them, whether they went out, you know, on Home Road or went around on 51st Street. But I think that we would love to keep our sense of community. It really does matter to us. We are a unique neighborhood here in the Milwaukee area, and it does really matter to us. The safety of the kids playing in the street, riding their bikes. We love to have that dead end. We all, you know, make our way around when we take the strollers and walk through. And for us, we just feel like we're in a safer place, not having strange cars, you know, drive through. So I just think that's really important to point out tonight, just something that hasn't been brought up.
All right, thank you. Okay, and Brett, if that's everybody in Zoom and in the room.
The only addition I would make is I was reminded by Lee Garnett, I had communicated with him before the hearing about, he had asked if I could make available several photos that he sent me that he wanted to share on the screen when he was testifying, and we did not get clear about doing that. So what I would propose is that I just put those on the screen quickly, allow him to talk, to just give a quick description of what these photos were. He did make a reference to one map of tree canopy. So if I may, let me, unfortunately, this is not a great format on this computer, so I'm not sure. Let me allow him to talk. And Lee, I've got the image up. Let me share.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the canopy cover map is a little bit small. There we go. I'm zooming in a little bit. Lee, I've got the canopy cover map up. Do you want to just say quickly just a word about this and the photos that you sent?
There you can see can you hear me now okay?
Yes.
There you can see how much canopy we lost. It was pretty shocking. And I also just wanted to mention in connection with that real quickly that if you saw the Oregonian Saturday, you saw that the city to the north of us, even with the tree coat, is losing canopy. To the second picture, I just wanted to show how big those trees were. Some of those trees were. I just wanted to show how big those trees were, some of them. There you can see the house that was there. That's partially torn down, but they did remove 2 perfectly good houses to build Mission Park. So that's why I wanted to show that to challenge the variance. And then this is the, if you can go down a little bit lower, Yeah, there you go. The light colored tree there, I believe, is the one that would be cut. And it seems to me like that could be spared even if you authorize lot 4. So that's about all I wanted to show, and thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you, Lee. And I apologize for not getting that taken care of.
Okay, so are we good? I want to make sure we've got everyone in the public into the record with their comments. So I think we're set now, Brett?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so we will move on to the applicant's rebuttal portion. First off, does staff have any questions or any additional comments in response to the applicant presentation or the public testimony received?
Yeah, I think we'll give our response, and then the applicant will have the final word, I think. So, do you want to start in? I've got some things.
Yeah, I can. Okay, to discuss some of people's concerns. There was a comment about where is construction traffic going to go when home is under construction. Home will be done before this development even gets permitted. Home will be done by the fall.
We can speak to that issue.
Okay, so the home construction will not affect cut through at all because it's completed. A lot of talk, people especially living up near Llewellyn and 51st, you will see a reduction in traffic with a connection to home. You will not see an increase in traffic. That's just the way the traffic models and traffic flows would occur. Those living near the south end could see 50-50 either way. The 4 homes that are being built will all go out Harrison to 51st if the home connection is not made. So there'll be an increase in traffic for everyone that's living there when those 4 homes go in. The 4 homes have to connect to Harrison. So it would reduce impacts if Harrison is allowed to connect to home. In my estimation, my understanding, I've been doing private development for close to 20 years. So again, that's just my opinion. It is your neighborhood. Connectivity is a council goal and is part of the TSB. So we do try to make connectivity wherever we can. And again, I don't see why someone would drive out of their way to go through this neighborhood if they're heading east on King. Home Avenue project, there'll be some parking deleted. Most of that is south of Monroe. This part of Home has a curb along much of the west side, so the sidewalk going in will be put in behind the curb. The east side will remain essentially as you see it. There'll be a few improvements with curb ramps, ADA accessibility on occasion, but most of the improvements on Home are going to occur on the west side with occasional improvements on the east side. And again, the plans are already done. It's set, it's finalized, and it's available if anyone wants to see it. And on the narrowness of Harrison, right, when you're at 51st, it is not sufficiently wide because the rest of the width will occur when and if Mr. Chris McKillop develops his back half of his property. If he chooses not to develop it, then it'll stay at 18.5 foot width. There is no parking on the north side of Harrison right there. So there was one comment written in about the effective travel length is less if a car was parked there, but you legally can't park on the north side of Harrison. So that 18.5 foot width stays as 18.5 foot. The width of the street was chosen by the original developer, and anything less than 32 foot width, you cannot park on one side. So the developer chose the street sufficiently narrow so that he could only allow parking on one side of the street. And that design has been maintained by the developer, 28 foot width. So again, with the new 4 lots, there'll be no parking on one side of Harrison.
Yeah, I'll just try to answer there were a couple of fact questions that came up. One was about there's a question about how common variances are in subdivisions, and I would say that they, the variance is an option permitted in the code. There are clear criteria for approving a variance. There are a few cases outlined in the code where variances are prohibited for certain things, like increasing the density of a site, but I would say it's about as common as not to have proposals for either partitioning property or subdividing property that includes some variance for a dimensional requirement or something like that. There was a question related to, it seemed like there was some dispute or question about what the actual minimum density of the site was, and as I noted in my presentation, the size of the property being about 1.2 acres and the minimum density requirement for the R5 zone being 7 units per acre, the math works out to a minimum density requirement of 8 units for this site. So I'm not sure where the confusion was there, but I believe that is an accurate calculation. And related to the question, I think, of whether, there's several questions about the variances in particular and some concern or suggestion that maybe some of the existing houses on the property would be torn down as perhaps an argument about why approve variances, but I think it's probably fair to point out that if the houses were removed, there wouldn't be a need for any variances, because then you'd have a clean slate and the lots could be drawn to meet the minimum width, minimum area a little bit more easily. So I think that's something that if the developer was looking to get out of variances, then I think they probably would be proposing to demo the houses. But at least one of the applicants is living in one of the houses, and we haven't heard any expression of intent to do that. There was also a question, some confusion about why there was maybe no variance required for the setback of Lot 3. So Lot 3 is where the existing house at 10610 is located. The dedication of public right-of-way in between lots 2 and 3 to create the connection, the code has a clear allowance that where you have existing development and there's some kind of a dedication of property for public use, that if it does create a nonconformity, in this case taking a setback down from the minimum 15-foot requirement to 5 or less, that is allowed by the code. The idea is you're not creating the problem, you're actually, by dedicating, in this case, to provide a fire connection, it's acknowledged that that's an allowable act. I think in general, I guess for the Planning Commission's consideration, and maybe the applicant will address this, I guess I just want to point out that I think as a staff person, I've understood as all these comments have come in, it makes a lot of sense why people would be concerned about the change from a currently dead-end street system to one that has the street go through. It's a significant change in that it alters traffic patterns, your sense of maybe knowing the neighborhood or who or what's there. But I think we've made a lot of points based on our own experience and data about what you can expect in terms of trips. And I guess I would just point out that there are, amongst the points that have been made this evening, there's a lot of contradiction. There's concern that opening the street will make it heavily trafficked and crowded, and then at the same time a concern that the street is so narrow that it's uncomfortable to drive down. Or there were a lot of comments about and concern about clear vision and the intersection of 51st and King, but at the same time it apparently being fine for everyone to continue using that intersection if there was no through connection. So I guess I just want to point out, I understand that it presents a change, and I think we've made the case for what we would expect and the importance of a through connection. So that's what I have for staff response. Steve, I don't know if you have any other thoughts.
Let the applicant.
Thank you, Brett. Does the applicant have any rebuttal or additional comments in response to the public testimony?
Mark Dane for rebuttal. Before I do so, could I have 2 minutes to put together something which I wanted to hand to staff and also talk to my client for 2 minutes?
You're asking for a short recess?
Yes, short recess, please. Thank you.
Can we maybe take five-minute recess?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, so we can come back at 8:40.
But we are back.
Oh, are we back?
Yeah, we're on air now. All right, we're back. So,
all right, thank you. So we are back, and we're going to turn it over to the applicant for comments in rebuttal to the public testimony. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is Mark Dane responding to some of the comments made. I first of all wanted to thank the neighbors for coming out. This takes up your time. This takes up a lot of effort. And it's hard to do this when you're not a professional in handling this particular section of the code. So The owners spoke to me just downstairs a few minutes ago, and they have come up with a solution they think would work. But first of all, I just wanted to also respond to some of the comments that were raised, make sure I try to be respectful to the issues that were raised. I believe it was Kelsey that talked about the original design having 4 streets and not having anything going through. When the property owners came to me originally, before we had the pre-app, that was their initial design, before they had got any feedback from the city and from staff. So that was why the original design was showed the way it was. But after the pre-app, then the design evolved, reflecting the fire marshal, the city engineer, the city planner. That's why that change was made. Regarding Sandy's issue about notice, the notice for this city is shorter than most cities. It still complies with the legal code for this city. Staff has been very specific about making sure they meet the code requirement. Other jurisdictions, it is longer. And if these were to be appealed to the state, to LUBA, the notice period would be longer, the appeal period would be longer. But staff have complied with that. I believe it was Karis, who had a comment about the full street width. From the layout that we've seen, we can see that we only have a partial street, and the street as it has been built because the knuckle has not been fully built at the southeast corner. If you want to put up the map of the existing conditions, you can see why the street southeast of the property is the way it is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait.
If you could put up the map, the aerial photo, just so we can just quickly walk through why the street is where it is. I know you spoke to it, but I wanted to show it graphically. I'll just speak up a little bit. But you can see, obviously, here you have a knuckle here. And this street does go through here, but this street comes through here, this knuckle goes through here. When you get to this point, you will statistically have the correct amount of street. This street width here does not, by the way, line up with Harrison over here. So we had to take this and we had to sort of wow it down to match this street. And I say that because part of the issues when we had to move that street down was it brought it much, much closer to the existing house to the south on lot 3, which is why we have a 3-foot setback from the property line to the house. And again, as staff mentioned, it's not a variance, it's a pre-existing house and it's to a right-of-way, so that is not technically a variance. Leigh Garneth had talked quite substantially about Mission Park, about all the trees that came out from Mission Park, about all the homes that were removed from Mission Park. We're not Mission Park. We're trying to retain the houses. We're also trying to retain those trees that we can. We are only removing in this development the trees needed to be removed for the street. There may be trees that might be removed by the individual property owners if and when they choose to, but they're not going to be removed as part of this development. We're just removing those trees needed to get the infrastructure in. If the homes come in and they decide to remove that, that's not on us. Every property owner retains that right. There was a question about the basis for the variance, and the issues were to minimize the impacts for the variance, and the basis of doing that is to retain the existing house. If we didn't have the variance, we have to tear down some or a portion of the house. By keeping the house, we are minimizing the impact. There's always going to be a house on that south line. Whether a portion of the house on lot 3 goes removed, the south building line will always be 5 feet away from the south property line, regardless of whether the variance is granted or not. So the closeness or the height of the house is not impacted by the variance. The only thing that is impacted is whether the house on lot 3 is not impacted. In terms of looking for the desired benefit, the intent of the benefit is to retain the existing house and also to have an additional lot on lot 4, therefore increasing building stock. in response to the issues of the two oversized lots being developed further. There's, I believe, a condition of approval that states these lots cannot be divided further. Also, they do not have the square footage that would allow them to be divided further. Eventually, because these houses are older, they may be torn down 15, 20, 50 years from now, but they will only be replaced by a single house. So the number of houses won't increase, the lot sizes won't decrease. In terms, I think it was Access, discussed the issues of the knuckle and worse, safety with a through street. Unfortunately, there are a number of reports that actually show that cul-de-sacs are more dangerous than through streets statistically. That's mainly because people know them to be dead-end streets and children and pets play out in the street. And streets are not designed for kids to play in. They do. And because they play in and they don't watch out for traffic, they get hit more often. So statistically, a cul-de-sac actually is not safer. I understand why people believe it is, and they're certainly very desirable, but they're not necessarily safer. Regarding, I think it was Mr. Wayne Horse, his comments were about the setback variance, which I believe I've discussed. He mentioned open space was mentioned to him. I spoke to both the owners, and neither of them mentioned any open space to him. We're not sure where he got that information. He also mentioned that the subdivision of 4 lots, each over 5,000 square feet, didn't add up because it's the R5 zone, and these are 5,000 square foot lots being built. These do add up. These comply with the zone, and they also have street frontage. Speaking to the issue of parking, because these lots are going to be 50-foot wide, they're going to have a 20-foot driveway that will allow for 1 parking space in front. So there'll be 2 additional on-street spaces there. Now, in responding to the issue of the through street, there's been significant opposition to this. We would like to propose a solution, and we want to continue with the through street being 20-foot wide, being a Woonoff design with 14 feet of AC and 6 foot of concrete, which I believe it was originally all going to be asphalt with a paint strip, but I think having the difference in the concrete and the asphalt identifies it more. And then we were proposing that there be a bollard at the end of the street and have a one-way street exiting the subdivision. Part of that reasoning is that in terms of the traffic, certainly during the day, a lot of us have seen during COVID, there's been a great increase in UPS trucks, Amazon trucks in all our neighborhoods. If they don't have a way to get out, they will turn around. Trash trucks, same thing. If it's a dead end, nowhere to get out, they turn around. Causes problems for the people at the end of the street. If it's one way out, they can go out. Same thing with the mail. You get all these traffics, all these trucks during the day that would have to turn around, and that would increase the burden on people at the end of the street. If we would have 20 feet of Woonoff with a 14-foot traffic lane going out, one way, no entry, what that does is it means this is not a cul-de-sac technically, so that would bring this dead-end street, which is currently not in accordance with the maximum length for a cul-de-sac. It would basically connect it through. It would also allow the city to show compliance with the block requirements. And the block requirements don't need to be for vehicular traffic. They can be for pedestrian or alternative modes of traffic. So by having the one-way out through street, we can meet the block standards. We can show alternative modes of transport. By keeping the one-way traffic out, no traffic can come in from the south side. It could come in from the north side and come through, but it would be a single lane, and that would discourage any through traffic. Alternatively, there could be another solution. We believe that's the solution that stops through traffic coming through, but does allow the UPS truck, the mail truck, whatever it is to get through to come out. And we believe that would work within the design that was already submitted. This is our response, and both the property owners are supportive of doing that rather than have a two-way street, as we initially did propose, because we understood that was what was required. We think that this is a reasonable solution, and we just wanted to get the input from the engineer. Also, I wanted to see if it's possible to close the hearing and sort of move forward. Maybe we can hold the file open for 7 to 14 days to allow additional written material to be submitted, but we ask that the hearing be closed. I'm available to answer any questions at this time, but I hope that this is a solution that people could get around. Is there anything you guys want to add? Nope? Okay, thank you.
Are there any comments from staff before we move on?
I have no comments, but I'm open for questions if there is a question.
Chair.
Other questions from the commission?
Chair, may I ask a question? This is Greg, or Commissioner Hemer.
Yes, please.
What do you think about the applicant's proposal?
I think it's acceptable. I think his idea of making a 6-foot northern half as concrete and the southern 14-foot half as portion 2/3 as asphalt gives a better visual distinction between, even though it's the same elevation.
They have to be flipped because of traffic flow.
6-foot concrete on the north.
No, the asphalt has to be on the right because of the one-way traffic, because the traffic going out is on the...
Oh, you're saying on the right, so you got...
Because you can't have
think
traffic facing each other, so it has to be on the north side with the concrete on the south side. Because of the traffic.
Yeah, it flows better. Yeah, the sidewalk, I guess it could flip on the other side. I was vigilant on the north side, but we could flip it on the south side.
Traffic leaving the
That would give a little more cushion to the home on lot 3 too from traffic, yeah. So, it's still on the same elevation, so a fire truck would still have its 20-foot flat, solid access to get through both ways. A single bollard at the concrete asphalt intersection would be preferred, so that you lose the look of a wide street. You add to the look of having one part of being a sidewalk, and then you have to put appropriate signage and the striping being one way. Actually, well, I think a Sherrett striping on it would still be good, just showing it going. A bike could go either way too. It's just the cars need to go one way out. But I think it's a reasonable solution.
Thank you.
Sure. That's right.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
Just gonna tie it into the street.
Okay, I heard the applicant's representative request that we leave the record open for written testimony. And so rather than procedurally, we won't be closing the record because we need to leave it open to accept additional written testimony, but I would need a motion. Oh, Laura, do you have things to say there?
Chair, I just wanted to be sure that that was in fact what you had requested, the applicant had requested, because I think originally you requested that it be closed tonight if there could be a decision made, and if there can't be a decision made tonight, then you would continue. You would request a continuance.
That's close. I had requested that the hearing be closed, but the record be left open to allow us to work out the details, and also to allow the neighbors to put any letters in either in opposition or of support, so they have an opportunity. But I want the hearing closed, but the record held open, so that all issues can be put on there, and we can work out the details, and then we can also come up with a condition of approval. I sort of drafted one very quickly, but come up with the applicable condition of approval if you would trust staff to handle the specific condition. I think the condition Q.
Thank you for that clarification.
No problem.
So with that question, before I make a motion, does city staff have a timeline that they would think that they would be able to get together with the applicant, put together this, and then present it to the neighbors? in a reasonable amount of time?
I'm not doing it. May I respond?
Go ahead.
I don't think we were looking to do another hearing. I can provide all the information to the neighbors as quickly as possible.
I understand that. All I'm asking for is how long are we going to leave the open record? Because it seems that the proposal needs to be kind of worked out with the city, then given to the neighbors, which would be the open public. So if it's 3 days, if it's 7 days, if it's 14 days, I don't know how busy the city is, and I'm sure the neighbors all have their pitches and torches ready to fire up whenever they're told that the parade's coming, so.
Keep in mind, I'm out of the office Friday, Monday, Tuesday, I'm in San Diego.
What if we use the format that we were thinking about for if?
The line.
Yeah, well, it already sounded like it. Come back to the PC for decision, it sounded like April 12th was already pretty full, so if we're looking to get to April 26th.
Did he say that they didn't talk to the
Workshop proposal in 7 days.
They didn't talk to the
Publicize that, the neighbors have 7 days to comment,
There was
and
no
then
NDA
Mark can
meeting.
follow up with 7 more days, and we tried to get to the 26th.
Can't answer that.
I thought maybe he said.
Chair, this is Commissioner Massey. I understand you're not here. I have a little bit of concern. I'm not against anything we're talking about, but we're having so many sidebar conversations that we're diverging from a public hearing, and we have to have a public hearing by law. So if we can kind of get back and have the questions and answers posed to the staff or to the commissioners, let's just do it that way so that everyone hears it. It's all in the record, okay?
Yeah.
And if we need to,
So that's what we're,
if we need to have another break, I'm not against that either. Yeah.
Are we going to have another opportunity to speak
So-
and share some of the comments that were just discussed?
I would suggest we hold that thought for just now.
Okay.
Okay. There will be other
so
opportunities.
where we are right now, we have a question open as to the timeline. We have a question from Commissioner Hemer about the timeline for leaving the record open for additional comments. And I'm waiting to hear from staff about the answer to that question.
Yeah, so here's a suggestion about that. That is, we would propose getting back to the Planning Commission in a month, April 26th, hear me out, asking the applicant to, within the next 7 days, provide staff with a revised proposal that we can publicize to the community, and allow another 7 days for the community to respond. And then I guess here's the question, is it 7 days or 14 days? Does the applicant need time to respond to the neighbors' responses? If so, then we'd say 7 days to get us something, 7 days for the neighbors to review it and get comments in, 7 days for you to respond as needed, and then we're 1 more week to get to April 26th would be the suggestion. So, Mark, do you have thoughts
If I
about
can
it?
respond. So what we're talking about is for 7 days for us to present any new material, to make it available to the neighbors within the same 7 days and make it available to staff. The next 7 days for neighbors to be able to respond to the new material that is available, and then for us to have up to 7 days to rebut that. I think we'll probably need maybe 1 or 2. What I'm asking is for the hearing be closed, but the record be held open, and then the decision to come forward. If you guys want to do this and I just don't want to go start from the beginning, have new people that weren't on the record come and open this whole thing up again, because otherwise this carries on forever. I do want these guys to have a fair chance. We did come up with a solution, which I think is reasonable. So I think 7, 7, and 7. So close the hearing, keep the record open, because we're talking about one issue at this point. And you're going to decide either this, or this, and then the decision will be issued.
Yeah, I forgot we actually have a 5th week in March, so it's actually 5 weeks, I think, between now and April 26th, is that right?
Yes, it is. It's 5 weeks.
So I guess the question would be, would it be
I mean, it's not up to me. These guys open the can of worms by saying, okay, let's listen to what the neighbors are saying, but, you know.
Okay, so the suggestion is by March 29th, which is a week from tonight, we get the information from the applicant that is then shared by March 29th with the neighbors. The neighbors have another week, which is April 5th, to get responses into the city. And then by April 12th, the applicant has whatever response you're going to have, and we move forward towards hearing another meeting on April 26th.
So you are having another meeting? I thought it would be a closed meeting where you were going to make a decision after all the evidence had been submitted.
I think you're saying the suggestion is there's no more testimony.
No more testimony, but we will need to continue.
No more, no more testimony, yes. So, yeah.
So, Brett, can you give me the date again that you just, not the April 26th date, but the date before that?
April 12th.
April 12th is the deadline for the applicant to respond to the neighbor's response to the new proposal.
And that would be still open public testimony, correct?
No.
Till April, so April, what date are we closing the April?
April 5th would be the deadline for additional written testimony or written responses to the new materials.
Okay.
Commissioner Hemer?
Yes.
You can just say 7 days from today for additional testimony.
It's actually 2 weeks from today.
You can say in addition,
the 29th.
And then another 7 days. I'm sorry?
No, I'm sorry, I'm confused. It's 7 days from now for the applicant to get us new stuff. It's 14 days from now for people to get us more testimony. It doesn't make a lot of sense to give us testimony for a week from now, but yeah.
So this is the normal statute that we follow when we do this. This is 7 days for additional testimony, an additional 7 days for any comments to new testimony, an additional 7 days for applicant's final rebuttal, and then we'll have our deliberations at the next hearing on a date certain of April 26th.
To confirm the dates, the date is the 22nd. So new information must be provided to staff by March 29th. The neighbors and anyone else has until April 5th to comment on the new information provided by March 29th. The applicant then has until April 12th to respond or rebut any of new testimony provided by the neighbors, which has to be done by the 5th. At that point, the record is closed, and then you go forth and you have your hearing based upon the record that was submitted by that date.
That's correct.
Thank you.
We're not going to have another meeting.
Hold on one second. I'm going to make an attempt at this, and stop me as I go through this. I would like to make a motion to continue the hearing till April 26th with a March 29th deadline for submittal of written testimony, April 5th deadline for written responses to March 29th submittals, and an April 12th deadline for applicant's final written rebuttal.
That's what I heard.
Yes.
And continue the hearing to a date certain.
April 26th.
April 26th.
April 26th, yes.
Is that a satisfactory motion?
That was a motion, yes.
Is there a second?
I second. As long as that motion is good, then I second.
I think we might have discussion over here in chamber, Commissioner Edge, before we vote.
Is there any, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on that before we, yes?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Massey. I guess I'm not sure why we would not let the public have an additional chance for public testimony.
This is the regular process we go through. We leave the record open for additional written testimony. And you know, this is what we've done in similar cases before. It's what's required by law.
Well, if that's...
And we also have to meet the 120-day rule.
Yeah, I understand about the 120-day rule. So I know that we can't string this on forever, but at the same time, I just want, I want us to leave here with a clear expectation that any comments from the public have to come in a written form. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
That's correct.
Okay. I just want us to leave here with that understanding.
I think after that we pass this motion, I think staff will, or the commission will address the audience members in a much less legal way for complete understanding, so that we can just get through this process so that everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah. You understand my
If that's
concern?
fair.
Yes. I just want to make sure that the audience knows what the expectations are about their ability to influence any decisions.
Got it.
Oh, with that in mind.
We have a motion and a second.
Sorry, can I just?
Oh, go ahead.
Can I just ask to sort of clarify, then, the way you worded the motion talked about providing new written testimony by March 29th. My understanding was that was the applicant providing us with new information, and not the public at that point providing us with new information, but the public is responding to new information that the applicant will provide by March 29th, because the idea was to have new public response to the new information submitted. We've already had testimony on the current proposal, right? So trying to get clear about what the expectation is, the expectation is that Mr. Dane will provide new information by March 29th, and the public will then have a chance to review that, and the expectation is they provide their comments on the new information by April 5th, right? Not that people have 2 weeks to submit comments about anything else.
Chair Edge,
Okay, procedurally, I want to clarify what the statute is here, because that's what the motion, I think, was tailored to. I think Commissioner Hemer used the right language for the motion. The record needs to be left open for additional evidence for 7 days. An additional 7 days for anybody to respond to that new evidence, and then an additional 7 days for the applicant's final rebuttal. And that was what the language of the motion said. And that's what the language of the statute is. So my understanding, without having Justin present, my understanding is that if we leave the record open, we have to allow 7 days for new evidence to come in, an additional 7 days for anybody to respond to that evidence, and then the final 7 days for the applicant.
Right, so you're allowed, from the way that the motion reads, you're allowed written responses to the March 29th submittal by April 5th.
So I just want to clarify that that's how we've applied this statute in the past, and I want to make sure that we're consistent with how we've applied it, regardless of what the applicant's representative asked for specifically. I think we need to be consistent with our application of the law. And with that, I believe that Commissioner Hemer's motion was...
My motion still stands.
And was seconded.
Yes.
Correct.
So with that, unless there's any further discussion, which I'm happy to entertain before, because I want us to be solid here. Is there any further discussion before I pull for the question? Okay, very good. So all those in favor of the motion on the floor to leave the record open for an additional 7 days, and then an additional 7 days for responses to that new evidence, an additional 7 days for applicant rebuttal, and then a date certain new hearing for deliberations on April 26th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, unanimously passes. So we are continued to a date certain of April 26th. The record will be left open for new evidence until March 29th. And staff will send out, the notice for the procedures of submitting comments and everything to move forward. So,
and Chair, if you will, read your script. Sorry. There's nothing to read, right? There is nothing to read on your end, right? Chair?
Yeah, I think we just need to close the hearing for tonight. So the public testimony portion of this hearing on R-2021-004 and VR-2021-019 for 10586 and 10610 Southeast Home Avenue is now closed.
So I'll explain to the audience here real quick what just happened. We gave Mark 7 days to basically submit to the city what he just talked about. After that 7 days is done, you guys will then get an opportunity to review the material, and you're given 7 days to reply back. So that's where we get these goofball dates. So March 29th, he has to give the material to the city. By April 5th, you have the opportunity from the 29th to the 5th to comment. And then April 12th, Mark gets a chance then to rebuttal the comment. And then when the hearing comes back on the 26th, there will be no testimony taken. So you're more than welcome to come and show up in the audience, but we won't be handing out yellow cards. Is everybody happy with that?
Can we watch? We can still watch.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, make it the highest rated one ever. City loves it.
It says the testimony has to be written. Any additional testimony on the new evidence or the new design has to be written, so just keep that in mind.
By the 5th, right?
Yes,
Right,
correct.
and that's electronically or hand?
Will anything be shared and read out loud at your meeting that was submitted at the hearing?
We will definitely have, what the next process is what happens is we just sit around and talk about it, and then we make our decision. But the new plans will be presented to us, and we will see the public comment in our packet.
We'll collect public comments. It'll be in a packet just like what was prepared for this meeting. Yeah.
But try to get the comments in before 4 o'clock of the day of the meeting, or we may not see what you have to say.
No. By April 5th. By April 5th. By April 5th. By April 5th.
Do you guys see entirely what we write, or do you see the translation?
Whatever you send in gets sent to us.
Oh, okay.
Typos and all.
Typos and all.
Yes.
Robert, Commissioner Massey grades them, just so everybody knows. Thank you, Chair, for letting me do that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your handling the communications over there, Greg. Okay, so we are moving on. We're into our other business and updates. So do any commissioners have any other items for discussion?
This is a question for me, Chair Edge.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. One, the good news is that we got approval from the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde to read a Native Lands Acknowledgement at the beginning of the Planning Commission meetings. And so I can bring that and put that on the agenda next time. It will be the first item on the agenda as, moving forward. I don't know if there's any further discussion. I got the head nod from earlier that was something that we were going to do. Okay. And so then also I just wanted to say that every year the Planning Commission has a joint meeting with the City Council to go over kind of what we did the previous year and then what's ahead of us in 2022. So the meeting for that is scheduled on April 19th. So I know it's about a month away, and it's at 4 o'clock. So it's during the work session part of it. So it's at 4 o'clock on April 19th. We'll have about an hour with them. And so what I will do is I will send out a meeting invitation to you all tomorrow to get that on your calendars in hopes that everybody can be there. And then we can talk about our work plan and all the fun stuff that's coming up for 2022. All right?
And that is available hybrid as well, right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So your choice. And that's all I had.
Be here. Cool.
Oh, all right, thank you. Do commissioners have any other items for discussion?
You know, I will throw this right on out here since we won't be meeting until April 12th, but April 2nd, from 1 to 5 at Milwaukee Museum, lasting all the way until December 15th, when we close down for the holiday season. We have our newest exhibit entitled Then and Now. It is photographs of the past and what it looks like today. It is an exciting exhibit to explore not only your community, but to help you understand and strengthen your sense of place. So come on down and visit. It's not only land use exciting, but also people and places.
Thank you, Commissioner Hemer. Any updates from anyone else? Okay, then future meeting forecast.
All right. Sorry about that. All right. So April 12th, we've got the Senate Bill 458 code amendments that you all had a work session on a couple weeks ago. And then we have a variance request for a new building that's proposed on Southeast 58th Drive. And then we will have, yes, the 26th, this will come back from tonight.
And the 19th.
Oh, and the 19th.
The joint meeting with City Council, yeah.
I had to switch my calendar gears, Mr. Hemer. Okay, yes, and the 19th. I will put that on here. Sorry about that. That's it.
Okay, I guess we're all set. Thank you. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I second.
I got a motion. I hear a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, I think we're good. So, good night, everybody.